It says it started.
Hey everybody, it is Alexander Masood here with the rest of the team here for the DMV Future Fighters, and we're bringing you another one of our weekly broadcasts. And let's just run down the list and see who's here today. We have got the one, the only, the Zag Zag. Say hi to the people.
What's up, guys? What's up, future fighters?
Yes. And also, we have got Brand the Man, Brian Ashbrook.
Yo.
With that same Iblis picture. So jumping right in, today we are talking about the one, the only, the Dungeon World. So our man here, Zach Zag, is the master of the dungeon. So Zach, if you could please give us a rundown of Dungeon World.
All right. It's hard to say that you're the master or something, but I mean, it's one of my top decks that I like playing. Among a couple of decks like Hundred Demons and Legend World that I enjoy playing, I'd say I've invested most money into Dungeon World. If I don't know if you want to take a look at a very expensive flag.
Let's look at all of your SPs.
I have to. I should do a video for that, but it'll probably take a while. But anyway, to go over Dungeon World generically, I like Dungeon World just because they have a lot of resource engines you can abuse with a mixed deck. You can maybe switch them more over to an adventure build or demon lord build for different varieties of advantage. But Dungeon World in general has a lot of cards you have access to that can generate extra advantage. One card turns into two or more cards, which is very useful. So the first thing you talk about with Dungeon World is all the mission cards. So you have the mission cards, form a party, defeat monsters, hot springs that come to mind first and foremost. I feel like these missions are the most useful, and to go over them generically, form a party is awesome because you play it does nothing by itself. When you play another mission, its ability activates, where you get to search your deck for any adventurer, so that includes another resource engine, continue, or you can search for your weapons. That helps with the new dual wield adventure knights mix decks, or you can just search for Tetsuya or any other card that you can actually push for games with during these turns. The other cards that I like running was before in the traditional mix deck.
Party, not to cut you off.
What?
Doesn't form a party also net you a life as well?
Yep, it gets you one life and one card, and it's so I mean with the new cards, like some of the new dungeon enemies that let you even pay 2 life to search your deck for a mission card, it's pretty easy to go even and ramp up your consistency with mix. The other two missions, the first one being Hot Springs, it's an excellent mission card. It costs 1 gauge, and if your adventurer dies via an attack, you get to pick up 2 adventurers. So this includes an adventurer weapon, this includes an adventurer spell, or it includes an adventurer monster. To me right now, Hot Springs is less relevant in our current meta just because a lot of people, if you're not playing a close center with adventurers, nobody's going to want to attack your adventurers when you got the card on the field. Instead, they're going to use their forms of removal to start removing these cards from play. So to me, it's a lot harder to get off than it was in the past. However, a card that I've seen, in my opinion, go up in usefulness is Defeat Monsters. With access now to the dual wielding weapons, which we can kind of go into more later, whenever you destroy a monster, so that includes chumping a monster with Soul Guard, you get to put the top card of your deck into the Soul. When the cards become 2 or more, you get to draw them. So I mean, that's already 1 card turning into 2 cards again.
That is very powerful. Now, I know one of the most interesting things about Dungeon World is a lot of your key cards came in the original Dungeon World trial deck.
Yeah, the former party, I believe, yeah, that foil came from the trial deck, and Defeat Monsters came from the trial deck. So I mean, you already have access to some of the most powerful missions that I'm actually running right now in Dungeon World, and I see that Juan finally decided to show up after playing Smite, probably.
Yep, the one and only Juan Mango has shown his face.
I think he's muted though, so I can't even hear him.
On job one.
Yeah, I've got symbol as well. Wait, there you know. Juan, are you there?
I can't hear you. Well, he'll try and figure that out. Do you have a mic or something?
Did your mic die?
I think he died.
Yeah, he's talking, but we're just making fun of him.
What is it? Did you mean fall down the well? Did you mean fall down the well? Put Bear on. Bear don't know what to say.
He's probably trying to get for Bear. Yeah, there he is. But anyway, while he tries to figure out his own. Oh, oh, I guess I started lagging out there. Well, while he tries to figure out his own mic issues, um, what was the topic that you got on about, Alex?
I was just saying the fact that you have access to so many things straight from the get-go.
Oh yeah, I mean the trial deck came with Pillar of Fire. I mean, Pillar of Fire is probably one of the most haunting cards that hit the scene during the time. It's like,
One of the best counter removal spells in the entire game.
yeah, it's like, well, I don't want to play these creatures now because they have 6k or less defense, so I need to build my deck so it has at least 7,000 defense. That's how powerful this one card was. That came in a trial deck. It also came with the shield, the Divine Protection of Salshana, which is an excellent shield too, because you can have monsters in the center, protect them, and still gain a life, but you have to pay gauge for the shield, which seems to be a very constant theme with Dungeon World, paying for protection.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, what other cards do you think are really relevant for mix?
For mix, I mean, obviously you have the card Magical Fortress or Sir Klein. This card's a card that screams mix, right? He is a 4/2/5 that lets you put a dungeon enemy, and an adventurer from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck to gauge the top card and draw a card. So this is extremely useful for trying to play your shields, for example, or your Pillar of Fires, and drawing into extra cards. So this card, I think, is still pretty timeless, being able to be played at least at 1 or 2 copies, just because Continue can net you anything from your drop zone, and having the extra gauge to make some of your Continue plays live is pretty useful as well. There's the other card, like I already mentioned before, with the Twin-Tailed Incubus. This is a card that's useful because it allows you to search for mission cards from your deck for the cost of 2 life, which ramps your consistency. So if you're playing the Knights mix, where you search for your weapons, it's pretty likely you'll have one of those 3 cards in your hand. So if you have a weapon, search for Camille. If you don't have a weapon and you have Camille, you search for the Camille or the weapon. Or, you know, it's really easy to ramp up the consistency with Incubus. So you have an extra card that acts like a mission, but is still a body on the field to swing. So I mean, I like playing this card first turn, searching for former party, and just going ham with it.
That is pretty brutal. Now, Brian the Man, can you share your experiences with fighting against Mix?
Well, the main thing that kills Mix is that once they run out of gauge, you know for a fact they can't block anything, like no matter what. Like, another thing is that while they have lots of consistent.
Your mic just died out.
I think Brand the Man was smote by the buddy gods. I don't know.
Probably DC'd or something.
Uh-oh. Well, so one man go, would you happen to have a mic, or are you just sitting there looking pretty? Okay, he doesn't have a mic. Alrighty.
How were you talking last week? You should probably type what you're saying, because we have no idea.
I like how it crashes as soon as you ask me to talk.
Right.
Alright, I see how you is. Alright. So did you get any of that, or no?
I heard the beginning where you talked about their lack of shield, and then you said...
The lack of gauge means no shields.
Yeah, and then you said, well, they have consistency, there's also, and then... Pfft.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Did Juan just talk?
Yeah.
Juan has arrived.
I just had my credit card in front of my computer.
Okay.
Why?
I don't know. Shopping?
Is that why the mic wasn't working?
Maybe.
Oh, whatever. All right, keep going, Brand.
Brand?
What?
Do you have any more input, or are you still playing Fallout?
Alright. Alright, let's see if I'm hoping that it won't kick me out of this thing again. Alright. So, the thing is, they have lots of consistency to get all their stuff on board first turn, but it's really easy to disrupt that. Like, once they get the 2 weapons on the field, and you manage to blow up both weapons, and you just don't touch their monsters, they have a pretty bad time.
Like, I mean, how are you destroying both weapons at the same time?
Well, not necessarily at the same time, but if you, over the course of the game, if you can if they only have one weapon on their turn, the weapon is complete shit. Like
yeah.
if they only have one, like even if you kill the one, then the one spear is just a 4/1 with penetrate. Like it's kind of trashy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I would disagree with
Well,
that.
well, yeah. Anyway, Juan, what's your experience with fighting against Dungeon World?
I don't like it. I've never liked it. I hate it. I think they're possibly the cheapest deck ever, just because you're able to, when you're able to kill a person
Fifth
in
armies.
one turn,
Moving on.
really,
What were you saying, Juan?
whatever, you're able to kill. They were the first like OTK in this damn whatever
Danger World.
without having impact.
Danger World.
Oh, really? Since they came out, they were like the first, like, oh, put the 3 crit weapon, put this Tetsuya, blah blah blah. I just never liked it, and it's just easy for them to like put that mission card and then put drum in the center and be like, okay, have a fun time.
So, how do you feel? Have you played against Dungeon World recently?
Yes.
How do you feel about the new Dungeon World stuff?
Why are you giving them 2 weapons?
Yeah, I
So,
know, right? They should give me 2 weapons.
so we have extra attacks.
Why?
So I can attack you with a 2, Tsuku, a 0, and 2 weapons.
Why? I think it's the dumbest thing they ever did was give him 2 weapons. Like, they didn't have Tetsuya to stand him up again. Like, get out of here.
I think if the 2 weapons weren't adventurers, so they didn't interact with the with Tetsuya in general, I think it would have been a very different scenario. So your frustration and your salt can be very thoroughly understood, Juan. But at the same time, there are good answers. I mean, for you playing Fifth Omnis, legitimately, you kind of have a 1 card answer against that.
Well, if they don't attack it, yes.
But if they do attack it, it acts like a shield at that point, doesn't it?
I guess, but I'd rather them attack me. Anyway, I'm not gonna sit here and BS you. I don't like Dungeon World, and I'm never gonna like it. I've lost to it plenty of times at regionals, plenty of time at locals, plenty of times everywhere. I'm not a fan of it. And the time I did get to use it, I felt like it was just too godly because I just killed this kid in 1 turn. I had 1 card left in hand, and I pulled stuff out of my ass.
Zach, would you say that's a very accurate description of what it's like to play Dungeon World?
Pretty accurate. I mean, you could go to Orser to like Dangerous Fuse and then basically draw into like a weapon or some bullshit, and then Tetsuya, and then, I mean, with Tetsuya and a weapon, you can already start swinging for what, 5, pretty easy.
So do you feel like you need to take a shower when you get home after you play Dungeon sometimes?
Never. I mean, as long as Fifth Omnis are a thing, that's a pretty suitable counter to Dungeon World right now. The only thing that I've found out through playing against Fifth Omnis is I definitely need to have an impact in the deck because, of course, they're going to try and leave themselves sitting pretty at around 7. So I'm always just going to start link attacking them for big numbers. And the nice thing is they have their Gargantua Punisher clone, where if you have an adventurer equipped, so luckily I have 2 adventurers equipped, so even if you destroy one of them and I have 4 gauge, I can just deal straight up 4 damage.
Now, how do you respond? Because doesn't the Fifth Omni item destruction monster doohickey, can he go off more than once?
Yeah, of course you can if they take more like separate instances of damage.
Mm-hmm. So in that case, do you have to link for big numbers in order to not like activate trigger that twice?
Yeah, for example, if he goes and does his stupid item monster and drum, I'll just link attack with everything to shield check him.
Okay, but I mean, and how do you respond whenever he has the Lord Dragon Shield?
Something gets blown up, and I can hope that I have Camille in my hand for next turn to draw into more items.
Because, I mean, in all honesty, in that situation, whenever you're linking that way, you're kind of asking for a shield, and a Lord Dragon Shield setting off both the drum and the item destruction effect kills one of your items and one of your monsters, probably the Tetsuya or whatever high crit monsters you had on the board.
But either way, it's gonna happen regardless. If he links attacks or not, it's gonna happen regardless. Mm-hmm. So to him, I can understand that. I can respect that, and I can understand that where he has to link attack because I've had people like, okay, well he's at 6. I'm not gonna attack one at a time. I'm just gonna link attack it all and hope he doesn't have a shield.
Mm. True, but I mean, your Dragon World, to be fair, you have 20 shields and counting.
And it's a little bit harder for him to play the Lord Dragon Shields at maximum copies just because he's already got things like Drum or the cards that protect Drum.
Mhm.
And he'll probably be wanting to use those over being able to regain life points with Green Dragon Shield or regain gauge with Blue Dragon Shield. So I think it's a bit harder for them to max out Lord Dragon Shield, even though it does have its usefulness against the matchups that do negate your shields.
Mm. Now, Zach, what do you feel is the most effective build of Dungeon World right now?
I like mix still in general, just because you can. If I was trying to play just straight up adventurers, and I missed continue a lot. I mean, continue is a huge threat, especially if you want to play missions. I mean, if you have the former party on your field going forward in the game, and you do get into another mission, all of a sudden you play another mission card, and you can search for continue. You search for continue to go into like a Tetsuya, a Miseria if you're playing it, or the Twin-Tailed Incubus, so you can even search for another mission card to search for, I don't know, Camille or another weapon. There's a lot of crazy things you can do with Mix right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it opens the door for Orser Klein, so I mean that was another card that I missed just playing straight adventurers, where just being able to have the Gauge Excel with the extra card in your hand was super nice. And the mix build that utilizes Orser Klein, Camille, and I even like playing Dangerous Fuse in my deck because I fail more often than not. So that gives me the 3 or more gauge to start playing some of the Omni Lords like Mr. Burn Nova, who prevents me from losing the game unless I'm playing against freaking Dragonine or something. So I'll just go to negate. All of that was fun.
That's true. Now,
Hmm.
what of the old cards, like the old support cards, do you feel became irrelevant with the advent of the Adventurer Knights in the new mix build?
I always have trouble playing cards like Nuboru and Zanya now, even though I really want to play them. Some of the older cards, I don't play any of the old Zeros anymore, just because if I can play the Bronze Golem, who has 2,000 power instead of the 1,000, I think that's way better. Fate Skeleton used to be a solid choice because I needed it to get to 8K, but now with a weapon that swings for 8K by itself, who cares on just having a 1 crit opener with the Fate Skeleton? And right now, believe it or not, the deck that I've been playtesting for Mix doesn't even run Pillar of Fire right now. Just because I'm trying to just be aggressive with my field during my turn, utilize efficiency with missions, Camille's, and weapons to draw into the cards I want, and then having cards that can't, the shields like the Quintessence that reduce damage by 3 and the Shalshana at maximum, because cards like Pillar of Fire can technically be nullified by preventing my opponent's monsters from being destroyed. Or Hidden Crossbow, which is nice if I have a closed center, but I'm not playing with a closed center right now, so it's iffy for me. I mean, right now, since you play like 8 missions, it's hard to play 8 missions, shields, and then something else. I mean, I'm playing Dangerous Fuse because I like to try and draw into more stuff. I like trying to draw into my shields over my Pillar of Fires or something, or it's useful gauge for trying to play some of your I don't want to lose cards. But I mean, I do miss Pillar of Fire, obviously, just because that constant threat of going, my opponent's completely designing their deck from this one card I do miss that.
Now, do you side deck Pillar of Fire?
I haven't made a side deck for this one, but I mean, before it used to be Pillar of Fire used to be at 1, but I used to always at least play 3 Pillar of Fires. And I don't even know if I would play Rolling Stone anymore, just because my weapon is pretty reliable in clearing out the center with Tetsuya, so I might just play Pillar of Fires in there instead. That way I could easily just pull out Dangerous Fuse if I thought it was not useful in the matchup to just throw in Pillars of Fire instead.
Okay. What do you feel about the what Omni Lords do you run in that build?
I run 3 copies of Miseria because it's my new drum and my new Blade Wing. It's really easy to get him off or get him live with Form a Party and the other missions. If I have Form a Party and I keep going with Form a Party, I'll get the missions in the drop zone or the spell requirements for a Soul Guard right off the bat. And I mean, it's really easy to pick what you want to pick with Form a Party because you're going to pick a weapon and you're going to pick Camille. If you don't have either of those cards in your deck, you can start picking up things like Continue or I don't even know what else, or Tetsuya is picking them up while you stall with Miseria in the center with his two Soul Guard and his 6/2/5 double attacking body.
Okay.
But so 3 copies of Miseria right now, and I also play 1 copy of Burn Nova. Those are the only Omni Lords I play right now.
That's a Burn Nova's kind of a standard, one of in most decks, right?
He's definitely looking like you. If you're not playing 1 copy of Burn Nova, do you not like stealing the win from your opponent?
Or the question then becomes, do you own a Burn Nova?
It's very true. I think I saw people sell them for $18 recently.
I might consider picking one up if I wasn't broke.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what build do you feel is least relevant for Dungeon World right now?
For some reason, I just don't like dungeon enemy right now. To me, I haven't tried building new dungeon enemies, but I mean, if I would build any of them, it would be Demon Lord, obviously, because you have the gimmicky impact that lets you attack 5 times with the Demon Lord and then win the game. And then for me, I would try and like Shido over when they have 1 life if they're trying to stall me or something. But I don't really care for the Demon Lord deck in general because before it used to just be you played the Golden Buddy Pack Demon Lord Dragon that lets you pick up a Destruction or a Demon Lord, but he can only attack once per turn. Or you played the Dungeon Enemy Dragons that either had Penetrate with 2 Soul Guard, and they both had 10,000 power, or 2 crit and double attack, which, I mean, they were good, but they had 5k defense or 4k defense, which to me was very easy to clear. Their lifelinks weren't... I would love those cards a lot more if they didn't have lifelink, because to me those cards seem kind of irrelevant with having the lifelink. I mean, they're super useful against clearing things like Ozzy the Hawk or getting over Gold Ritter, but I don't even know that people play those decks very often. They play Ozzy. I don't even know that they play Gold Ritter as often anymore. And if it's they still don't even have like a generic counterattack card. The only thing they have is their staff, which is completely broadcasted where it's like I have 5k defense. Can you swing over that? Of course you can swing over it with your terrible size ones that are generic 5ks now.
That's valid. So what do you feel are some of your easiest matchups?
I guess that's kind of... I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's easy to catch people off guard a lot because the consistency with my deck, it's really easy to open well. And if my opponent doesn't even open with 1 shield, I can kill them. But if they open with 1 shield, then I can't really kill them. But they're already they're off to a bad start. But if they open like some form of counter item destruction, that'll hold me back quite a bit. Being able to either bounce the weapon when I play a Camille to search for the other weapon, or even destroy it, or even just straight up kill Camille or negate Camille. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. It's kind of hard to say what's an easy matchup versus them. I mean, recently I've been beating around Darkness Dragon World, but everyone else has been a bit harder to get through. I mean, I hate 5th Omnis if we want to already jump to my worst matchups. Yeah, I really don't like that 5th Omni deck. It's really annoying. I mean, they have good cards available to them to straight up hate on, first of all, the new mechanic of the deck, destroying items, or second, trying to destroy things that like utilize the double attacks with it and don't have Soul Guard to kill the creatures. That's one reason why I like playing Miseria in the deck right now, is a double attacking Soul Guard option that I can swing a drum multiple times with because it's got the 6,000 attack power. And if they do to try to kill it with the drum's ability, I can attack with him last to make sure he's always getting his attacks off.
So you feel like he gives you versatility?
Miseria does give me versatility in defense, especially too. It's my new drum, being able to plop them down in the center while I'm trying to draw into my weapon, or try and draw into Camille to finish the combo that I need, or trying to even draw into a mission card. It's pretty useful too with just having Miseria, since he's a size 2 and not a size 3. It allows me to still utilize cards like Continue to get like Shido and a size 0 and start swinging for lots of damage without even having the weapon on the board.
That's another card I want to say. I want to F Shido, whatever his name is. F him.
I love that card. He's so good. Who cares that his attack power is basically 0, but the 2 crit, and when he deals damage, I'm gaining life. To me, that was the card that I was missing the whole time when I was trying to build new mix. Being able to give myself additional life, unless I was playing against the mirror match, giving myself additional life to either play the twin-tailed Incubus or just take the additional hits, because they don't want to bully my monsters if a card like Hot Springs is on the board.
This is true. This is true. How do you like? So you, as far as monster destruction goes, don't particularly care.
Me, no. I mean, right now I'm playing a lot of defeat monsters, so I mean, it's actually better for me to destroy my opponent's monsters. So if I can see that, let's say my first link attack, because the first broadcasted link attack with Tetsuya is going to be a 4 crit double attack. Let's say they shield that first one and they have monsters on the board. I can no longer kill them, but I can go after the monsters using defeat monsters to try and to draw into more shield power.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that a lot right now.
That's gonna make your Star Dragon World matchup hilarious.
Oh, it's super hilarious. I mean, the only thing that's really annoying is if I don't have a shield and all of a sudden they have Jack and he's hating on everything because he destroys weapons, or the critical or the penetrate that's going through. If I have a monster in the center, it's really annoying if I don't have the one shield that I can actually use versus Star Dragon World, which is Divine Protection. But it is quite hilarious being able to swing over.
What is your combo like? What is your ender like? Did you guys already talk about that? Like what your end, like what's on the board for you to deal them 10 damage or more?
Well, we hadn't gotten to that. I was actually going to ask that next. What is your winning image?
Right now, it's obviously you always try and go into the weapons if you're doing a night mix, right? So I mean, you have both weapons by themselves. The weapon's 4 critical, right? As soon as Tetsuya hits the board, having the 3 crit weapon with Tetsuya equals 7 damage. So you have 8 damage present on the board with 2 weapons in Tetsuya. So I mean, whether or not you want to fill the void with either Miseria or Camille, so Camille would swing for, you would have the 10 damage, or Miseria would swing for the 12 damage. I mean, if you instead don't have Tetsuya and you have the Tsuku and the 0, that's 4 damage if you have a 0 and Tsuku in the center. 4 plus another 4 being your weapons, and then another 2 crit size 2 or something. That's still 10 damage. So I mean, there's a lot of options, and the nice part is that Continue automatically throws you into almost all of those options. Being able to pick up Tetsuya or Miseria off of those plays, which I enjoy a lot. Camille is excellent because he gets you your gauge refunds. A weakness that Dungeon World had a lot pre this set, pre the Sol of the Omnilords, is that, yeah, obviously to do a lot of your plays, you'd have either 1 or no gauge. With Camille now, as soon as he attacks, you get the additional gauge, so you're already live into most of your shield or your defensive cards right now, which is pretty nice.
Do you have any defensive cards that do not cost gauge?
I have 2 defensive cards that don't cost gauge that I can think of. The first one is the Quintessence of Cassiate or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's a card that I can't have a monster in the center, but I reduce the damage I take by 3. Pretty good. That's
really good, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't cost gauge, so I mean, I have to play this card now. I mean, before people were just doing 4 Shalshanas, 4 Pillar Fires, and then some number of the other free defensive card, which is Hidden Crossbow. Hidden Crossbow is pretty amazing just because it can destroy any 3K or less defense monster, and you can have a monster in the center, and this is free. The 3K is an extremely relevant number because a lot of the monsters that my opponents are playing that are just straight up beaters have 3K defense, so it's pretty nice.
Yeah, you're going to run into that a lot with, especially a lot of the new stuff since the H sets started coming out. Now, that card that lets you prevent the next 3 damage, is that only castable in response to an attack, or can you, let's say, cast that in response to an impact?
Uh, I can use it. Well, this says when the next time you're dealt damage this turn, you can reduce it by 3. So I can even reduce the impact damage if I'm allowed to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are a lot of impacts, like take, for instance, Gaia Crusher, the generic ride impact for Hero World, that can be reduced. So that's one card that can completely nullify a finishing attack.
Yeah, I feel like 80% of the people playing a Brave Machine deck are still probably playing Kazarian, though, and their impact is not reducible, so...
True, but that's a different issue in and of itself.
Yeah.
That was the first that came to mind because that's generic.
Yep.
None of mine are reducible too.
Yeah, but yours are now negatable for the most part, which is nice. So I think the only thing you got to be scared of, though, is what? Dragon World and Katana World for negating impacts.
There is a generic card that can negate an impact.
Is there?
Yeah.
It will never be used.
There are 2 ways to activate it. Either A,
Pay all your life points.
pay 5 gauge, or B, have 2 Taros on the field.
Ah!
I'm gonna side against you on. Turn back the sands of time.
Because
Giga Howling Crusher.
Nope.
Because honestly, in my Dragon Knight build that I was running, when I built so much random gauge and didn't have a whole lot of ways to use it, I was really, really debating either maining it at 2 or siding it, just because pay 5 gauge to not get hit with an impact.
Yeah.
When you've got 8 gauge sitting around you're not doing anything with.
Unfortunately, Dragon Knights, I mean, even if you negate it, though, you still got nothing to do.
Tomoe can help. Anyway, but this isn't about Dragon Knights. But I presume that Dungeon World couldn't use that card because, well, you use gauge for everything.
Yeah, I mean, the difference is that if you do decide to run cards like Dangerous Fuse, because, I mean, like, I fail a lot with it. So, I mean, there are times where I do get pretty heavy into gauge, which is nice for being able to just play Burn Novas or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that I have a bit more gauge than I used to have, mostly probably because I don't play, what was the card that I'm thinking of? Pillar of Fire anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it saves some of my gauge right now. So, I mean, I'll probably try and move back to Pillar of Fire a little bit, but in place of Dangerous Fuse or something maybe.
Okay. Now, big question that's kind of the capstone of this conversation that we could talk about for a little bit is how do you feel that Dungeon World, especially the mix, it's its most viable build right now, fits in the meta? How do you think it competes, not just about a local meta, but in like the larger meta, like, for like regionals or big tournaments or Dynasty Cups?
It's kind of hard to say with Dynasty Cups right now, just because I think I could steal games with it. I mean, obviously, we saw California. There was a deck that took second that was Dungeon World mix, right? Presumably Dungeon World mix. I have no idea what they actually were. But I think they're pretty competitive. The fact that they can clear some of the size 3 decks that they had problems with in the past is pretty appealing to me right now, because before, my main issue with Dungeon World is I had a lot of trouble clearing the size 3 big butt decks. I mean, that was like some of the most annoying. If I didn't draw Tetsuya, and they had something like, what was that? It's like a Gargantua Blade, or the 4 crit dude would move.
General Boldness.
General Boldness, that card would absolutely crap all over my deck, and it made me not want to play Dungeon World in the metas that I was about to walk into, knowing full well that I'd probably be playing against 1 or 2 of those decks in top 8 and then taking the auto loss.
Mm-hmm.
But now, with access to like double weapons, I could easily swing over stuff. I had things like Tetsuya that could link attack with my weapon, swing for 10 by itself, double attack, swing for 8 by itself. I can get over all these big annoyances now. And then, especially with the introduction of like Shido, I mean, the Brave Machine matchup, and I guess Hero World in general, are the only matchups where Shido becomes dead. So, I mean, I'm going to have to find answers other ways, maybe like the Basilisk Slime or something, or the Petrification Slime dude. that allows me to rest monsters when they come into play for paying life points. That's an excellent option for Shido against some of those matchups, being able to prevent something like, I don't know, an X-Blazer from being able to swing at me the turn it comes onto the board, or against Wizards with all of their size 3 double attacking monsters, being able to automatically rest all of those guys to prevent them from trying to play a little bit of the control game. Super useful.
Now, when you're talking about the Brave Machine matchup being difficult with cards like Shido, a lot of your low power cards being a little bit irrelevant in that situation because you have to link or get over the high defense. Have you considered like maybe siding Mass Soldier?
I haven't really thought too hard about Mass Soldier because I play Spike Brothers and Vanguard, so I guess that's probably why I like playing Dungeon World and Buddy Play, is that I try and build decks that don't really care what my opponent are trying to do. It's whether or not they can just stay alive is the only thing that I care about. So if I'm trying to build a deck that can swing over, the new set even came with a Knight card that if you have a Knight item equipped, it gets plus like 3,000 or 4,000 power. So it's a size 1 that swings 7 or 8K by itself. That's pretty ridiculous. That's like another perfect card for the Dungeon World mix or Dungeon World Knight. I love that card. So a lot of their weenie monsters are not so much weenies anymore.
Okay. Now, do you run the Impact, the new Adventurer Impact?
I do not. I've always had trouble finding space for impacts, even though the missions make it so it's so much easier to play them. Like, I should be playing at least one of the 4-gauge, 4-damage impact, or one of the Dungeon Explosion 2-gauge for 3 damage impact. It's really my ignorance that prevents me from running those, because a lot of the shortcomings, like I just described to you guys, is one shield kind of stops my offense. Well, if one shield stops my offense or keeps me, 3 or 4 damage short from finishing the game, guess what would be perfect in these scenarios? An impact.
An impact to close the deal.
Yep.
Impacts really help with closing that gap against decks that have a lot of shields. Is that something you're planning to work on in the future, or do you feel like the way the deck is now, you aren't really going to need those?
Well, I'm not a 50 card. Not every deck that I build in Buddy Play has to be 50 cards. If I'm expecting that I'm always going to be short versus decks that are running a crap ton of shields, yeah, I'm probably just going to make my deck like 51 or 52 cards just so that there are 1 or 2 impacts. If I felt the need, or I'm having the trouble dealing with these types of decks.
Hey, just go 68 cards.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
What? I did it.
that was one. Okay, no, pause. One, that was a very different meta. And 2, you were playing Dragon World. Everything was relevant.
You're not wrong about Dragon World being relevant.
Hey, but I always had the answer for everything, though.
Main character world, go.
The look on my face is the salt of a world that was main character world, but isn't anymore.
Well, your main character wasn't even playing your archetype, though, was he?
I know. I'm aware, but people still call me main character world. Anyway, moving on. This isn't about me. This is about you. Well, Dungeon World in general. So, speaking of, creatively building your deck, not sticking to exactly 50 cards, because you have all that draw power, you can kind of play around with your deck construction a lot more. A lot of resource regeneration. What would you say is the cap? Like, you can't safely go above this number for the number of cards in a deck while still maintaining consistency.
No, personally, I like to try and stay under 54 or 55, just because I feel like the ratios start getting off. Just because it's not really about my creature ratio, it's more about being able to draw defensive cards when I need to ratio. It's hard. That's a personal feeling, though. Even though I have all the resources, most of the resources is drop zone dependent. So it's not really the deck dependent unless you're counting the missions, but the missions don't let you pull the dungeon enemy resources you need. So I mean, there are times where I could be sitting where I don't have any dungeon enemies in the drop, and some of my best resource cards, i.e. continue, aren't even live.
Mhm. Now how do you deal with that? Like when continue's not live, you don't have a dungeon enemy in the drop. Do you have any ways to like fish for cards out of your deck and send them to the drop? What resources do you have for? Because you have plenty of resources for fishing for adventurers. What do you have for fishing for enemies?
For me, it's kind of blind shots. If I fail dangerous fuses, I try and make sure I get rid of the gauge that's a dungeon enemy. Or if Camille goes off and I get a gauge if I get a gauge that I'm not aware of, I try and burn that gauge. So it's really me just kind of grasping for straws, trying to get all of the dungeon enemies into the drop as fast as I can. But the one thing I do is personal philosophy. I always run 9 dungeon enemies in my mix build, a minimum 9 dungeon enemies in my mix build to make sure I kind of see them.
Okay, that does sound like a little bit of a shot in the dark, honestly. I mean, you have all these different ways to search adventurers.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, if you have 9 cards, that's virtually 1 out of 5, right? So I mean, your opening hand is 6, 1 out of 5 chance to have a dungeon enemy in your opening hand.
Uh, give or take, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the
You're,
charge
you're,
and
you're a
draw.
little short of that ratio, but I mean, we'll take it.
Yeah.
It's and you said in your testing you feel that just running mono adventurers or mono knights or whatever wasn't like the added consistency there didn't make up for the lack of oomph that you get from your draw power and your resource stuff from having the mix.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly because of the things like Fifth Omni or something that I felt like I wanted a different kind of advantage. Um, from straight knights, I just miss continue because if my opponent could just straight up control my board, and I had no way, I'm only drawing 1 card a turn, but if I can turn the 1 card into a completely new board, then why wouldn't I want to play that kind of a card?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And adventurers on their own don't have that kind of plussing potential. They have
Not,
1 card replaces itself, not 1 card becomes 2.
yeah, I mean, if my opponent doesn't kill my monsters, I don't have that kind of advantage.
Mm-hmm. So it's more conditional, but then, Nosbur Springs is specific.
To destruction by an attack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it follows that formula of you have this very limited scope of activation, but in exchange for that, you get a really great effect. But then that's the same thing you get with your mixed cards. So that sounds pretty exciting. Are like looking at what's coming out like in Buddy All Stars from what we've seen of it so far, and the releases that we have. What are you really looking forward to in the near future?
I only think I've only seen 1 card that's been kind of spoiled for dungeon enemies, or Dungeon World in general. That was the User of Darkness, right?
I don't keep 100%.
Which one's that?
I think it was the double attacking. If you have an adventure weapon equipped or something, you have a size 1. It's Kazane in a card that's a 4/2 whatever double attacking size 1.
It's a 4/2/1 that gets double attack while you have another dungeon enemy on the board.
It's a dungeon enemy, and she's an adventurer or something like
Yeah.
that. To me, that's pretty good.
There's another card spoiled. It's like the SD Blade Wing. It's like when it enters the field, you have another dungeon enemy on the board to blow up a monster. I think that's what it is.
What's its size?
I think it's a size 1.
Hmm.
I have to check. Hold on.
I mean, I feel like the dungeon enemies and dungeon or demon lord decks got a lot better because of Miseria, just because you can play a lot of your tech 1s now. Since before, you were playing demon lords and demon lords dungeon, and you could only get back your 0s. But now you can pick up your 1s with it because it is an actual 1 or less card from your drop zone, 1 or less dungeon enemy from your drop zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they got a lot better with Miseria.
Yeah. So
Oh, okay. So it's a size 1, 2/2/2. Call cost 1 gauge. When it enters the field, if you have an adventure on the field, destroy a monster on your opponent's field.
and it is a enemy.
Yes, it's an enemy. Just an enemy.
It's an enemy so it's a card that's specifically built for the mix.
Yep. Oh, it's
Yes.
Kazane's deck, so right?
Yeah. And this is SD Bladewing.
Yes.
Now, does that sound like a card you would use in the mix?
No, I don't really know, because before I used to run a lot of 1-gauge demons. But I'm trying to think of, because right now my size 1 slot is kind of filled with Twin-tailed Incubus, for example.
Hmm. And what was Kazane's full effect brand?
Kasane, I'm pretty sure I got it right. Let me double check that. I know it does get double attack.
The size 1 with double attack's kind of nasty.
Yeah, to me that already made it pretty awesome. Size 1, 2 crit double attack. Super awesome. It's not even that hard to get live.
Yeah. It's kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm. So getting it live is what? It's an enemy, you need an adventurer, or it's an adventurer and you need an enemy?
Yep.
I think it's pretty sure it's an adventure and you need an enemy.
I think that's true. Which is, you put Kazane and then you play SD Bladewing, and then all of a sudden you're popping stuff, and now you have...
Double attack.
Yeah.
Attacking everything.
Wonder if they're going to come out with a new weapon by then for her, too.
I don't know. It's going to be... Buddy All-Star is going to be a very intense set because that's a...
Can't wait for that set. So much hype.
Yeah, I'm just upset that I can't participate in the Dynasty Cup that's happening December 19th.
19th, yeah. That's exactly what I was going to lead into. You're stealing it from me.
I'm pretty good at that.
The DMV Dynasty Cup Championship Series is going to be having their
I don't know
Buddy
which
Fight
one.
tournament, and that is going to be December 19th. I believe that's at Chibi's, correct?
Yep, Chibi Cards and Games, LLC, in Ellicott City, Maryland.
Yes, and that's going to be literally the day after, the Saturday after Buddy All Stars drops. So
We probably should adjust the date, but maybe we'll figure something out.
it'll be exciting. It'll be definitely reminiscent of Season 1 Vanguard. You know, whoever masters the new cards shall have the advantage.
Yeah, I guess so. That was the problem I had with the last two New York regionals, is I had a week because of the sneak peek. The sneak peek generously allowed me to play with cards for at least a week before the regional happened.
Yeah, well, you know, we don't get sneak peeks anymore because people do bad things.
I guess. Is that the rumor that's going around?
That's what I heard, that it's like they were trying to push the draft format as a way to teach new players to play, and people stopped actually drafting Buddy Fight. And
People don't draft Vanguard.
Huh?
People don't really draft Vanguard either.
Some people do, actually. But people were literally just like, show up, buy a kit, and then leave. And there was a lot of people, like, you know.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's a thing. And, I mean, Buddy
I
also...
personally miss having those sneak peeks. I thought they were nice.
Yeah, they were exciting. They were always exciting. Also, I mean, I guess everything's getting rolled up into the new product. I mean, we got, what, 10 cards a pack now in Buddy All-Stars?
Really?
Yeah, 10 cards a pack and 2 rares and higher.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Wait, are both of them, like, minimum rare, possibly higher?
Yes.
Yeah, just like that. I think that's an extra booster thing in general now, but holy shit.
Yeah, those packs are going to be super thick.
Yeah.
I'm sad that I'm flying out the 18th, so I won't even be there to pick up cards.
And is it, like, sold out before it even printed?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. Man, I gotta figure out how to get these shits. Because I'm gonna be gone, so it's not like I can even pre-order them for a reasonable price or something.
Well, I'm sure your teammates and best buds will hang on to what you want.
Yeah, I'll probably just buy play sets from Juan. Or not Juan, Justin.
Hmm. I'm really hoping that they give us some Brave Machine-y stuff. Yeah, but Anyway, speaking of the Dynasty Cup, I'm aware of the fact that you're not going to be there, which is much, much sad face.
Yeah, I mean, I planned my trip back in August, so it's not like I can change something that was planned in
Yeah, that's
November.
completely understandable. Um, how do you think Dungeon World's going to perform in general at a tournament like that? Like, there are a couple other players who do own Dungeon World cards. Um, and I mean, we always have the rogue players coming in from, who knows where, playing very interesting builds. What do you think Dungeon World's really going to be doing to shape the meta?
It's hard to say, especially with the drop of what Buddy All Star. So I'm not even sure what cards become a viable threat now. I mean, before if someone's playing a counter item destruction deck, I think that's probably the best deck to play right now in our meta, just because I think it hates on about every deck. Maybe not like some Katana World decks or Magic World decks, but I mean, yeah, man, I'd be worried. That's the deck I'm worried about in general. If I could figure out a deck that I want to play like that, I'd probably be playing that for Dynasty Cup.
Harold.
But I don't know how many people. I think Rob is a Dungeon World player. I think his name's Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Rob's.
there are always interesting players who show up out of left field for these kind of events.
Yeah, I think Derek could show up too from Pennsylvania. I know he's a Dungeon World player, but I don't know.
Well, that's definitely something to look forward to. This has honestly been a very informative, and actually, we stayed on topic and moved in a straight line for once. Yay!
Because Justin wasn't here.
Yeah.
And we got our nice dose of salt, courtesy of the one and only Juan Mango.
Although I am a little bit disappointed from this stream, I have to tell you. I don't even know. I can't even really think of too many puns that happened today.
Yeah.
Why did you bring it up?
Just because I feel like every stream probably needs some puns.
Well, I mean, I'm actually getting ready to show my house to my landlord and get the inspection finished. Actually, my landlord just rang the doorbell. So this is Alex Masood signing off.
All right, guys. Well, as always, I mean, hopefully we keep doing these things. I don't even know what the next topic's going to be next week, but we'll figure something out. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. I don't know if Juan or Bran, you got anything to say?
No, not really. Other than next week, we should totally start talking about Danger World.
We could do that.
Yeah. Topic I actually care about.
All right, that's good.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Signing off.
We'll see you later, Alex. Do you have anything to say, Juan, or are you still AFK?
I think he's still AFK. He's a scrub.
Well, anyway, guys, we actually cut it 5 minutes short. If you guys have any questions, leave it in the comments when this video's done being a live stream, and that we'll try and get to them. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Oh, where's the stop?